Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Amira, and I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel to support me, and if you find anything in this video helpful at all, please like and comment below. Now today, I really wanted to discuss my journey of becoming a pilot. I'm asked quite often what it was like and what the process is like to even get to the point that I'm at. And I would love to just share any feedback, tips for you if you're interested in learning how to fly, or if you're interested in becoming a pilot and pursuing the career just like me. So I am sharing my journey as much as I can. And if there are any other questions that come up, please just let me know in the comments below. So I will go ahead and get started with how I even got into the aviation industry. And like a lot of other people, it's typically introduced through family or a friend or a family friend. Now social media also helps share the lifestyle, but commonly what I've noticed is it's typically someone's family member that kind of got them into this world because it is a very, very unique world. So my aunt is a flight attendant, or she was a flight attendant for a major airline for, I believe, 30 years. And she retired a couple of years ago. And growing up, I actually was her companion for a few years. And basically, a companion is someone that can just fly on your travel passes. Because when you're an airline employee, you get travel benefits. That's one of the perks. You get to fly standby, um, basically flying for free if seats are available to anywhere that the airline flies to, or other airlines if they have partners. So I was exposed early to travel through her and my grandmother. My grandmother used to take me down to Aviation Boulevard, if you're familiar with LAX, and we used to watch some of the big planes take off, and the planes used to fly over my grandma's house into LAX all the time. So airplanes have always been very fascinating to my family. And my aunt went and pursued the career as a flight attendant. And she's always been one of the most joyful people that I know. She's always out there traveling. She's very extroverted, very, very loving. And I was just very inspired by her journey. And she always looked very happy to me as a child. Watching her as an adult just move through the world, having so many unique relationships, being able to travel to so many unique destinations, and then also being able to take me and my grandma and some of my other cousins on trips with her. I just thought that it was like a fantastic career. And I ended up going to college, not really being sure of what I wanted to do, to be honest. I was a psychology major. I thought I would pursue a medical career. But when I started to do some of the pros and cons, I realized that as a flight attendant, I really could make a similar amount of money that I could as a nurse. And without having to go to grad school. So I was like, yes, sign me up. So I completed my 4-year degree, and right out of college, I kind of was hit with what a lot of people are hit with, that confusion a little bit. It's really hard to decide what you want to do with the rest of your life at 18 years old. Some of us are great at doing that, but I kind of struggled with it, to be honest. So after I graduated, I kind of just thought to myself, like, what would I want to do? And traveling is something that I really was interested in. And me and my now husband, back then boyfriend, I really wanted to be able to travel with him and see the world and explore more. And through my aunt's passes, I could travel for free, but he couldn't. So I was like, well, I need a job, career. So maybe I'll just apply to be a flight attendant and see what happens. So then I applied to become a flight attendant for another major airline here in Atlanta. That'll be a good hint for you of what airline I worked for. And I worked for them since 2015. So a year out of college, pretty much, I was in training. And I had a lot of fun being a flight attendant. I've traveled to over 30 countries now. And that was a big part of why I wanted to be a flight attendant. I really had this adventurous spirit. I really wanted to travel as much as I could, explore the world, experience new cultures, and I've just learned so much through experiences as being a flight attendant. But I had this little voice in my ear the entire time I was a flight attendant. Like, I really want to do more. Like, I feel like I could do a little bit more, push myself a little bit more. I kind of felt like once you get that job, it's kind of pretty similar and it's not challenging, um, mentally stimulating. And I kind of just needed a more of a challenge. And I was trying to figure out what to do. So throughout my time as a flight attendant, I would always interact with the pilots naturally. And actually, while I was in training, one of the pilots that came to speak to our flight attendant group, she was a woman. And in my mind back then, like a kind of a light bulb went off, and I just thought, huh, that's really cool. I didn't think I had really seen any female pilots up until then. So I kind of started to get the thought. It went in and out of my mind for years. I asked tons of questions to pilots, and I honestly got a lot of support. I didn't see any pilots that looked like me. I have very few friends that are also on this journey and very few friends that are in the airlines. And as we know, it's not the most diverse community. So I thought, this would be a good challenge. It's mentally stimulating. I can continue to travel and explore and have that adventurous side. But also, I think it would be really cool to pursue this career because a lot of us don't know about it because of the lack of exposure. So I think any girl that sees me could potentially think like, oh, maybe I can do that as well, just like someone did for me. And yeah, I still toyed around with the idea for years, I must say, because I was scared. I was scared to get into debt going back to school because pilot training is very, very, or it can be very, very expensive unless you do the military route, which I was not willing to do. So, to kind of get more into the pilot side of things, after 5 years of debating, I actually did a discovery flight, and a discovery flight is a really good exposure to you. If you have any slight interest in flying, I highly recommend you just going to your nearest local airport and booking yourself a discovery flight. They typically range from 100 to 200, 250 I've seen, um, in most states, but you basically get a glimpse into what it's like to fly, and it'll be an hour. And if you decide to pursue it, you get to log that hour in your logbook. So I actually tried to get my husband to become a pilot first because I was like, oh, I could be a flight attendant, maybe you could be a pilot. Just those normal gender roles that I was kind of accustomed to seeing. And for a long time, I didn't realize that I was just pushing my dream onto him, right? So I ended up gifting him a discovery flight. He was able to go up and see if he liked it. And then I did my own discovery flight, like maybe 1 or 2 years later. And on my discovery flight, I booked it through Groupon. The owner of the school continued to tell me that I was too girly to be a pilot. Like, oh, you're too girly, you're way too feminine, look at your hair, look at your nails. Not that any of this has anything to do with being a pilot, of course, but he tried to kind of push me in another direction just based off of appearance and based off of who I was. On top of the fact that the the flight the pilot that I had during my flight wasn't the most professional. And so that kind of dissuaded me a little bit. Just that entry that I had into the general aviation world, I didn't really know if I really loved it. So I kind of continued to just go back to being a flight attendant and wondering what else I could do. Then I had a layover in Costa Rica. I'll never forget, it was February 2020. I was sitting down with the flight attendants and pilots, and we're all having dinner together. And I mentioned that I kind of thought about being a pilot, but I wasn't sure. And the discussion just went in that direction. Everybody was like, you should do it, you should do it. Talked to the pilots, they were very encouraging. And I just had this little voice in my mind, like, you know what if you just try? What if you just try and you just go for it? You've been debating it for years now. Maybe it's just time to just finally try. And as we all know, in March 2020, COVID really took over and chaos pretty much ensued, especially for the airlines, for the lack of better words, chaos. Um, there was a lot of confusion on what was going on with COVID, and a lot of travel was being discontinued. A lot of flights were being canceled. And in that process, my airline started to offer leave of absences because pretty much a lot of flights were being canceled and they didn't need as many people in the workforce at that time. So a month before that, I decided, okay, I'm going to go be a pilot. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do it. I'm going to use my savings to pay for my ratings and blah, blah, blah. Next month, my airline is now starting to offer leave of absences, which they had not done that 5 years I'd been there. I thought I would have to quit to go pursue pilot school full time. And now I had an opportunity to actually fly without quitting. So I took the leave of absence and I just took it as a sign that, okay, this is my chance to go for it. So me personally, I signed up to go to ATP, which is a really large school, a really large Part 141 school, which just means that it has a big structure, versus like a mom and pop school that is a little bit more freestyle with their structure. I wanted to just get it done as fast as I could because I didn't know how long that leave of absence would be for me. So I signed up for ATP and I did an intro flight May 2020, the beginning of May 2020. And I signed up, I took out the loan, and I said, okay, I'm just going to go for it. 3 months later, in August, I was able to get my private pilot's license. So a little under 90 days, I got my first license and I was officially a pilot. And to get your private pilot's license, there's a few requirements. You have to fly instrument, you have to fly at night, you have to fly solo, which means you literally learn how to fly by yourself in that process. And it's a huge confidence builder. And even if you just want to fly for fun, being a private pilot gets you that license that allows you to do that. So it's really cool. Even if it's just a hobby, I highly recommend it. It's a skill that you won't regret learning to have. And it's really fun. After getting my private pilot's license in August, 2 days later, I started working towards my instrument rating. And to simplify the instrument rating, basically that means that you can now fly in low visibility conditions, such as the clouds, when you can't see anything and all you can do is depend on your instruments and talking to ATC, giving you guidance and giving you routing from airport to airport. That's the simplest way I can put it. And I spent 2 months working on that one. And in October, I had my instrument rating. Right after that, the next day, I started working towards my commercial license. And commercial simply means that you can now be hired, not by a major airline, but maybe by a charter company, by a skydiving company, by a tow banner company that don't require as much experience. So a month later, I was able to get my commercial license. And I got that towards the end of November, I believe. And then a week or 2 weeks later, I was able to get my commercial multi-engine license, which means I could now not only be hired to fly a single engine plane, but I can also be hired to fly a multi-engine plane, meaning there's two engines instead of one. So 6.5 months in the whole process, I went from not knowing a single thing about airplanes besides what I knew as a flight attendant to being a commercial pilot with my multi-engine rating. To say that I felt extreme burnout would be kind of downplaying how I felt. I kind of felt like my head was spinning off. Felt like there was just so much information that I just shoved into my head, so much knowledge that I had gained, so much experience, but I was honestly exhausted. So luckily during December, they don't really give breaks at ATP, but luckily in December I did get a Christmas break to kind of like unwind a little bit and go enjoy time with family. And then I came back and I started my certified flight instructor course. And in that process, I ended up getting COVID. I started to debate whether I wanted to even be a pilot at that point. I think I was just really exhausted, you guys. Um, it was just a lot. I kind of just threw myself into the deep end of the ocean, and I just had to continue this sink or swim for months. And I think I was just tired. So I decided to discontinue the CFI training at that school because I didn't think I wanted to work there. And I kind of debated back and forth, what am I going to do now? I've already spent all of this money. I've spent all this time, all of this effort towards this skill. What am I going to do? So I decided that I was just going to take a little bit of a break. It was time for me to go back to work. The airline started to pick back up, and my year leave of absence, it was about 10 months, was now up, and it was time for me to go back to work. So I went back to work as a flight attendant for several months. I applied to a pilot pathway program that my company had just recently designed, maybe a year or two prior. I applied to that to see if I could get accepted so that I would be able to get the rest of the time off that I need to pursue the rest of my pilot career so that I can make it back to this company as an airline pilot. I applied and I was accepted, and I was given the time off that I needed to continue this journey. While I am still considered an employee of the company, I don't actively work for the company. So I do still maintain my flight benefits, and I am able to go back as a flight attendant if I decide like, hey, I am done. But pushing myself to not do that, right? Because being a pilot has been very gratifying. It's been very fun, but I can't lie, it is a very hard process, especially if you do it as fast as I did it. So I encourage you to take a discovery flight, see if you like it, and start working towards your private pilot's license. I don't know if I would recommend doing all of it accelerated unless you just grew up knowing that you wanted to be a pilot and you already have some kind of basis of knowledge or experience in planes, because it is really, really hard to just do it that fast. Now, if you have a private pilot's license, you got the groundwork and a good basis of everything, then I would recommend doing the rest of it accelerated. I think that's totally fine. But I think, honestly, taking your time getting your private, I've seen that really create a really good basis and structure for people that I wish I had. So, after I got my leave of absence, I started working towards my CFI rating. CFI stands for Certified Flight Instructor. Typically, people do this if you're not able to find a commercial job out there, because honestly, the jobs that are hiring low-time pilots are slim. There are some out there. If you have some connections, that really helps. But I don't really have connections in the pilot world yet. But being a CFI is a very, very common way that people build their experience and build their time so that they can get those higher paying jobs in aviation. So I went to Midwest Corporate Air in Ohio to get my CFI rating and my CFII rating. And I was able to do that in 2.5 weeks. So another strenuous, hard, accelerated program, but I got through it again. It takes a lot of studying. It takes a lot of figuring it out, and it takes a lot of belief in yourself to push through. But I honestly want to tell you, if I can do it, you can do it. I had no connections. I had no knowledge of being a pilot. It was just me and a dream, and I'm here. So I'm here to tell you that you can do it too if this is something that you're even remotely interested in. You can follow the same path. You can follow a different path. Pretty much you can meet one pilot over here and another pilot over here, and their journeys may look completely different. There is more than one way to make this dream come true. You just have to figure out what works for you. So right now I am working as a flight instructor, and I will just be building time, building experience, and I'm able to teach students how to fly. I'm able to teach private pilot students, instrument students, and commercial students because I have my CFI and my II rating. So I am very excited to see where this journey takes me. I would love to fly for a charter company. I would love to then fly for a regional airline, and then I would love to fly for a major airline. Like I said, it is very rare for people that look like me to be in those rooms. And it's never because there's a lack of talent. Typically, it's just a lack of exposure, right? And the ability wasn't even always there like 50 years ago, 60 years ago. So here we are, and I think it's just important for us to just go after those dreams no matter if you know anybody that's doing it or not, and don't be afraid to do something different. This is me carving out my own journey. I don't really have anybody to rely on here, but I'm making a lot of great connections in the process, a lot of great friendships, and I have a really strong support system. So if you're interested in doing this, go book your discovery flight, see if you like it, start working on your private pilot exam, start studying for your written exams as soon as you can, and then start flying. Once you start flying, you'll build that time, you'll work with your CFI to prepare you for your oral exam, and then you'll go do your check ride. And you do that same process for each rating. You'll go from your private to your instrument to your commercial to your multi-engine and maybe your CFI, II, maybe your MEI. Everybody's journey is different. You can do that in slightly different order. That's just the order that I'm doing it in. And I believe in you. I believe in me. I believe in us. And I know that we can get through this journey as long as we just continue that belief in ourselves. It will not be easy, and there will be some hiccups and bumps in the road, but you just have to continue to maintain that faith and believe in yourself. And if you found anything in this video helpful, please give it a like. Please give my channel a click on that subscribe button. please subscribe to my channel. Please like my channel, like this video, comment with any other questions that you have below. I would love to help anybody else out that's on this journey. You are not on it alone. And until next time, bye for now. Thank you.